Okay, this is the Weltkrieg, World War I Eastern Front game. We're playing the duration game, and we've added the Caucasus, and we're adding the Italian duration and the Macedonian duration games to it. This is a quick summary of where we are at the end of January 1915. Quickly go through demoralisation totals. Germany at 178, Austria at 215, Russia at 341, and the Turks at 21. So the Austrians are suffering the worst, but they're still not reaching what you would call serious morale losses. When the morale gets a bit dented, I think it's around 250, they'll start asking for asking for German assistance in the war, which is something, as an independent power, they were very reluctant to have German units operating on their territory. And at this current stage, they're only allowed to have 4 German divisions operating on Austrian territory. If we go over to the fronts and have a look what's happening, the Caucasus front, both sides have got regular supply and replacements coming in, but very, very low amounts of both. I've actually had to, because of the way that core HQs can have supply points, your core markers aren't always available for putting on your core displays to remove stacks in the game, because they've also got supply points on the supply track. So to get around that, I've actually just brought in some core markers, core units from another game, which is Fatal Alliances, in case anyone's trying to guess it. The activity here is the Turks have been launching sporadic attacks, the Russians have just been defending. The Turks actually managed to get one decent attack in where they didn't get absolutely pulverised. The problem is the terrain is horrendous here. It's also winter that doesn't help. There's only a limited amount of supply as well. Attacking unsupplied in this terrain is impossible. So the front hasn't moved at all. There's a limited amount of entrenchments because of the effect of mountain hexes separating the two sides. You can't entrench across there. So very little activity really. I can't see that front livening up very much, to be honest. If we go across to southern Serbia, Montenegro, the front's actually stable here, entrenchments all over the place. I think some of these, I was just thinking that there was an illegal entrenchment there, but there isn't. That front has been static and it's been starved of units. Any surplus strength is being sent to the northern Serbian part of the front. The Serbian armies launched an offensive around here, overrun some trenches and things, and gained a couple of hexes. There's also a gap appeared between the two Austrian forces. Now the Serbians aren't really going to be able to exploit that. The terrain's terrible. It's easy to defend on. It's very difficult to move through as well. And Serbians haven't got the units. But because this front's stable, you're not going to get an early Bulgarian entry, but they do come in October 1915 regardless. But beware that the Serbians actually have more units than what you're seeing here. There's a load of units that are covering the Bulgarian and Macedonian borders. Not very powerful stuff, but Bulgaria isn't just going to be able to walk in when it does activate. Austrian armies here have been starved of replacements and reinforcements, so they're really just hanging on, trying to contain the Serbians as much as they can. If we go north to Galicia, this is where a lot of the activity is going on. If you look at the border over there, that's the Russian-Austrian border, and let's look at where their front line is now. That's 7 months they've captured up most of that terrain from the Austro-Hungarians. Now, the situation at the far end of the line was getting really desperate, and the terrain's horrendous, and you've got the advantage of stiffened defences in these very high defensive hexes here. But the front looked like it was going to break at one point, but miraculously it didn't. They started bringing reinforcements in through all these minor railways, one-track railways. The biggest problem they're having is the main border railway has been cut. It's been cut from here all the way up to Chemsel. In terms of the front, the way the Russians are attacking, it's changed. You can't keep up this constant attack now, so there's 3 axes of attack where serious armies are pushing into the Austrians. There's 2 over there and there's 1 here, but other areas of the front are fairly static, like around Chemsel. The idea is that they've got guns, the Russians, but they haven't got the supply points to actually break down a major fortress. Supply points are in very, very high demand, and there's very few of them available. That's despite the fact that Austria-Hungary and Russia are receiving regular supplies and regular replacements. If we look at the rest of the front here, it's quite fluid around here, but progress is a lot slower. And then as we get over to where the German units in Poland here are, there's been virtually no movement. Now the big change has been in Russian Poland. If we look at this area here, just south of East Prussia, the Germans have actually crossed the border in force and pushed the Russian Second Army back a considerable amount, because basically they didn't have any forces to stop this, but they've gradually brought in more and more troops from other places in the front, and all reinforcements are being channeled into this area as well. So a front line is formed here. We've got other areas of Poland. There's still guarded mainly by cavalry and things like that, but there is a front forming here. The Polish have got to hang on to as much of the Russians got to hang on as much as Russian Poland as they can, because the pressure is going to build on them from the Germans, and they're going to have to trade space for time here as they fall back on Warsaw. This is pretty much inevitable, and the Germans start moving stuff from the Western Front, which is now stabilised, and the Germans go on to the defensive in the Western Front for a bit. If we look at Prussia, very little is happening in Prussia. It's a pretty much static line of trenches. Everything, all the activities moved into Russian Poland at the moment. In terms of the actual supply situations, as I discussed, everybody apart from the Germans has got their regular supply and replacements coming in. Now you see very little supply. There's the odd army that's got a few supply points available, but they're mainly being hoarded for some serious attacks when the winter is over. Now, in terms of the next month, if we go over, I don't think there's a great deal going on. I think what I have done wrong is Germany here. Now this is for the Western duration game, but they're supposed to have got a 5-4 replacement unit this month in January, so I'll stick that on the board in a minute. So there's a change in February 1915. German supply and replacements start pouring in onto the East Front. That's going to put the got immense pressure on the Russians. They're going to have to transfer significant units from the Galician front to the Eastern Poland front. That's about it. I've checked through this, and there's no other changes coming in for February 1915. One thing I will mention is, because there's so many of these rule changes that are based on time, you're going to need to record them somewhere. I'd look around Board Game Geek and see if anyone's done a better version of this, because I wrote this when I played the big duration game for all fronts. And it just tells you all the, well, as far as I know, all the date related rule changes, which are really important. If you don't have one of these, you're going to forget stuff. You really are. Anyway, that sort of sums up the situation at the end of January 1915. The war is going to change significantly as the Germans start piling stuff from the Western Front into this theatre.